the sexy roommate of my girlfriend. My girlfriend's roommate had an alluring figure and captivating eyes. She often wore shorts, casually strolling around in front of me. It wasn't until later that I realized everything was part of a plot and a trap. By the time I regretted and wanted to turn things around, it was already too late. My name is Qin Weiqian, an ordinary office worker. 2 years ago, I moved to the big city with my girlfriend, Xiao Wei, hoping to work hard and buy a house of our own. But dreams were full, while reality was thin. Now, my girlfriend works in a top 500 company, while I still live in a dorm at the delivery center, doing sorting work with all meals and accommodation provided. On weekends, I visit my girlfriend's rented apartment. As soon as I walked in, I pulled her into my arms. I missed you so much. Hurry up. Hurry up. My roommate is coming back. I hastily stood up, unbuckling my belt and removing the clothes that got in the way. To save on rent, Xiao Wei shared a 3-bedroom apartment with 2 colleagues. The landlady, an old, annoying woman, lived next door and would storm over at the slightest noise to cause trouble. But because the rent was cheap, Xiao Wei had to tolerate it. There was a knock at the door. Is anyone there? Open up. Xiao Wei quickly fixed her messy hair and put her loose robe back on, pushing me into a state of panic. What should we do? Quickly hide. If she finds out, she'll definitely cause trouble and deduct money again. We can't hide in my room, she'll definitely come in to check. In a panic, Xiao Wei saw the door to the neighbor's room, Manling's room, was slightly ajar. She quickly pushed me into it and whispered urgently, no matter how noisy it gets outside, don't come out. Wait until I knock and call you, understood? She kissed me on the cheek and went to open the door. The landlady, probably going through menopause, was mentally unstable. Her requirement for renters was young women, and they were strictly not allowed to bring men home overnight. When Xiao Wei first rented the apartment, she mentioned this rule, and I joked with her, saying that the landlady must be unhappy with her life and couldn't stand seeing others enjoy a sweet, loving night. Why isn't the door opening? Is there a man hiding in there? The landlady's sharp and nagging voice came from outside. I pressed myself against the door, listening to the commotion outside. Xiao Wei seemed to pick up a cushion from the sofa, impatiently explaining, Auntie, I just got home from work, there's no man here. You can't always eavesdrop on our privacy, or we won't renew the lease when it expires. We signed an agreement saying no men overnight. Let me check. If there's no one, I'll leave, but if I find a man, I won't refund your deposit. The landlady made a move to push open the door to Xiao Wei's room. I heard rummaging sounds next door, and it seemed like the landlady had opened the wardrobe. Xiao Wei stood at the door, quietly watching her, not blocking her, saying, You've looked, you've searched, shouldn't you be leaving now? No way, he might have sneaked out and will come back later. It seemed like the landlady was determined to stay. She sat on the living room couch and started drinking water. I looked at the time with a headache, thinking I might have to spend the night here. Weiqian? What are you doing here? Just when I was feeling down and thinking about where to sit, I heard a seductive, hoarse voice behind me. I turned around and saw Manling sitting up on her bed. What's going on? Is Xiao Wei not back yet? Manling stood up and walked barefoot toward the door. Seeing that she was about to open it, I quickly stopped her, covered her mouth, and pinned her against the wall. Manling tried to push my hand away, squirming uncomfortably, her breath brushing against me, carrying a subtle fragrance that made me feel dizzy. I leaned close to her ear and whispered, The landlord's outside, don't make a sound, I'll hide for a bit. Manling blinked to indicate she understood. I was about to release her, but she stayed close to me, even placing her hand on my chest, giving me a seductive look as she stood on tiptoe, leaning into my ear and asking, I live next door and often hear you too, you're so good. I haven't had a boyfriend for a long time, I really envy her. Manling's insinuations were so obvious. As a man, I was tempted, but out of loyalty to Xiao Wei, I didn't respond. I didn't know how long the landlord had been gone when Manling knocked on the door, and I stepped out. Sorry, I might not be able to tonight. Xiao Wei furrowed her brows, and I felt uneasy, still thinking about Manling's earlier flirtations. I quickly comforted Xiao Wei, telling her I'd come back to spend time with her in a few days, then hurriedly left. When I got back to the staff dormitory, I lay on the upper and lower bunks for a long time, unable to sleep. Whenever I closed my eyes, I kept thinking of Manling's face. Ding dong. As I tossed and turned, my phone suddenly received a message from an unknown number. Wei Chang, when you have time next week, come over early. I'm really good at cooking noodles, I'll make some for you. It was from Manling. My brow twitched. I saved the number and replied with a simple, okay. Wei Chang, I'm working overtime at the company. Can you go back and get something for me and bring it here? Xiao Wei sent the message just as I was finishing work. I rode my electric bike to the rented house, unlocked the door, and walked in to find Manling in a shirt, standing in the kitchen. Her hair was loosely piled on top of her head. When she saw me, she wasn't too surprised and pointed to the coffee table in the living room. Xiao Wei sent me a message. The thing is ready for you. I was sweating all over my back and walked over to grab it and leave. But Manling hugged me from behind, in such a hurry. I just made some noodles, don't you want to stay and try them? She deliberately twisted her body. My scalp tingled, and I turned to look at her red lips moving. Impulsiveness won over reason. I pinned Manling to the sofa, tearing at her shirt. Tell me. Are you trying to seduce me? Today, it wasn't Xiao Wei who sent me to get something, it was you making up an excuse for me to come, wasn't it? I gripped Manling's waist, speaking viciously. Her shirt had already fallen under the sofa, her neck was covered in fragrant sweat, and she nodded. I've always heard Xiao Wei talk about how amazing you are. There are so many useless men. A few times I heard noises from your place next door, and I was dying of jealousy. Okay. Let us see if you can handle it. I was about to undo my belt when my phone vibrated. I saw Xiao Wei's call on the display, and my heart skipped a beat. I had no interest now. I quickly warned Manling to stay silent and answered the call. The background noise on Xiao Wei's side was quite noisy. Wei Qiang, did you get the thing? Her voice was very gentle. I looked at the restless Manling and deliberately raised an eyebrow, teasingly kissing my stomach. I pressed her hand down, my voice hoarse as I said, there's a traffic jam on the road. I'll be there soon. Okay. Xiao Wei trusted me completely and didn't suspect anything. I hung up and climbed out of bed. As I was getting dressed, I heard Manling speak from behind, you're just going like this. I'm about to marry Xiao Wei. Let us just pretend nothing happened today. A wave of guilt rushed over me. Xiao Wei and I were childhood sweethearts, and we had worked hard to get where we were, coming from a small city. She had chosen a not-so-good school to study in the same city as me for the college entrance exam, sacrificing a lot. This was our 5th year of dating, and our families had started discussing marriage. At this time, I really shouldn't have done anything to hurt her. The guilt gnawed at me, causing me to leave the rented apartment in a hurry. When I arrived at Xiao Wei's company, she was already waiting for me by the roadside. The city suddenly started raining in the evening, and Xiao Wei, holding an umbrella, ran over to meet me. Her face was lit with a pure, bright smile as she linked her arm through mine. Wei Qiang, our project leader, is up for promotion, and I might be the one to take her place. If I get promoted, my salary will increase, and we can rent a bigger house to live together. Okay. I ruffled her hair, and my phone in my pocket kept vibrating. I didn't need to guess it was Manling. Xiao Wei curiously leaned over, who's calling? Why aren't you answering? It's someone from the company. They probably want me to drink tonight. I'm ignoring them. I casually brushed it off, took Xiao Wei to her favorite casual restaurant, and had a buffet meal. She was very content, but something in me had shifted. Xiao Wei was a great candidate for a wife. She had never complained about my low salary and never made any demands while being with me. She bought cheap clothes online, knowing I was saving money for us. But after a while, women like her lost their freshness. Our life felt as bland as warm water, even our intimacy was the same. She couldn't let go, and many times it felt like a task to her. Thinking about Manling's alluring figure today and her skilled touch, a strange fire ignited in my heart. Wei Qiang, I just bought 2 sets of sexy sleepwear today. Do you want to come and see? Xiao Wei is working overtime today, no one is home. Don't you want to? Manling would always send me messages and various provocative photos. Looking at those pictures that could make my blood rush, I was nearly distracted and had to deliberately avoid situations where I might interact with her. At the end of the month, it was Xiao Wei's birthday. I specially went to her favorite cake shop and bought her favorite matcha flavored cake. I also spent 2 months' worth of salary to buy her a necklace that she had left in her shopping cart for a long time, but had not bought due to the price. I arrived at the KTV at the scheduled time, opened the door, and saw Manling. Manling was wearing a black dress, and the strapless dress couldn't hide her great figure. Wei Cheng, you're here. Xiao Wei stood up to greet me, happily linking her arm with mine. I invited Manling to join us, so it would be livelier. I nodded and sat beside her with a complicated expression. The KTV was dimly lit. Xiao Wei couldn't hold her alcohol well, and Manling deliberately fed her some drinks. Xiao Wei quickly became dizzy and lay down beside us. Manling crossed her legs, wearing high heels, and used the tips of her shoes to brush against my calf. She ran her fingers along the edge of her wine glass, sticking out her tongue and licking her red lips. I had also drunk a lot and was feeling the effects of the alcohol. Is this the gift you got her? Manling pulled the jewelry box with the necklace from my pocket, opened it, and twirled the necklace with her fingers. She put it around her neck in front of me and asked, "Do you think it looks good?" The pendant of the necklace swung in front of her chest, blurring my vision. I nodded. I had already forgotten why I came here today. Manling stood up, motioned for me with her finger, then pushed the door open, saying, "I'm going to the bathroom. Xiao Wei, I'll go out and get you 2 bottles of mineral water." I was feeling dizzy, so I took off my coat and covered Xiao Wei with it before following Manling to the bathroom. The KTV bathroom had individual stalls. I followed Manling in and closed the door behind me. "Wei Cheng, don't you want me?" My eyes were already red, and I couldn't think straight. "You've been preparing for this all day, haven't you? Don't you feel guilty towards Xiao Wei? It's a mutual need." The sound of high heels came from outside the bathroom. My head was pounding, and I could no longer hear anything. She raised her hand and lightly opened the bathroom door. The next second, the bathroom door suddenly swung open. Xiao Wei, who had been waiting for us outside, stood there, stunned. Xiao Wei took 2 steps back, covering her mouth with her hand, her eyes full of tears. She caught a glimpse of the necklace around Manling's neck. You actually bought her this necklace? You knew I wouldn't let you spend money on it. Wei Cheng, how could you do this to me? You two actually did this. Let me explain." I took 2 steps forward, wanting to grab Xiao Wei's hand. But Xiao Wei suddenly pulled her hand away. Her eyes were devoid of affection, and I felt a sense of fear. But behind us, Manling interrupted, and in front of us, she took off her clothes and snapped 2 photos. "Xiao Wei, your boyfriend just assaulted me. I could report him to the police. If I go to the police, he'll definitely be arrested." Xiao Wei's expression wavered. We had been together for so long, at least there had been feelings between us. "What do you want to do?" Xiao Wei whispered. Manling seemed to have predicted this response. She ripped her clothes up, took off the necklace, and threw it at me. "I want you to give up on this internal competition." Xiao Wei's supervisor had been promoted to the head office, and the position of department manager was vacant. Based on performance and evaluations, everyone in the department had already determined that Xiao Wei was the next manager. "Even if I give up, it's still not going to be you. According to the performance, you're at the bottom of the department. The company hasn't fired you because they are being lenient." Xiao Wei frowned, looking reluctant. I knew that Xiao Wei had been working at this company ever since she came to the city. She had put in so much effort, even sacrificing weekends, to get to this point. If she gave up now, who knew how long it would take to get another promotion? "Xiao Wei! You can't." I wanted to stop her, but Manling sneered, "You can't even protect yourself, yet you're still meddling. Xiao Wei, don't care about whether I get the manager position. As long as you give up on the competition and tell the company you don't want the promotion, I'll handle the rest. Do you agree?" Manling held the evidence in her hand. Xiao Wei looked at me with tears in her eyes, bit her lip, and nodded. Manling got what she wanted, pushed past me, and left the KTV. I grabbed Xiao Wei, who was about to leave. "Let me explain, it wasn't he." I wanted to explain, but Xiao Wei pulled away from me. "I only believe what I saw with my own eyes. If you didn't want to be with Manling, why would you be here? What I saw, is it fake? Wei Cheng, we've been together for so long. I know, maybe love has turned into affection, but I thought I could start a family with you. But now, everything is ruined. Xiao Wei wiped her tears. Let us break up, Wei Cheng. I'll tell my family that we're just too busy with work and that our feelings have faded. I won't mention what happened today. I'll save some face for you, but please, don't come after me anymore. I don't want to see you again. Xiao Wei pushed my hand away. I opened my mouth and handed her the necklace. Even if we break up, take this. I don't know how to explain to you, but this necklace was really meant for your birthday gift. It was taken by Manling. I opened my hand, the cold necklace lying in my palm. Xiao Wei glanced back. I don't want it. Used by someone else, it's dirty. Xiao Wei's eyes were filled with disgust as she looked at the necklace, and I understood she was also talking about me. In the KTV room, I covered my face. There were many beer bottles around my feet. I smashed them and recalled how Manling had seduced me, then connected it with what Xiao Wei had said about the company's changes. Many things started to make sense. This was all a trap. Manling had deliberately seduced me. She knew Xiao Wei's weakness was me, and as long as she had leverage over me, she could threaten Xiao Wei. I won't let this woman get away with it. Since that night, Xiao Wei has blocked and deleted all my contact information. I waited at the entrance of her company, but she refused to see me. It's all Manling's fault. If it weren't for her, I wouldn't have ended up like this. I took leave from work and spent every day lurking outside their company. Since that night, Manling moved out of her rental apartment. I ate bread and drank cold milk, sitting in the cold wind for 2 whole hours, and finally saw Manling leave the company. She wore a leopard print leather skirt, and after waiting in the corner for a while, she got into a Mercedes and drove away. I quickly ran to the street, flagged down a taxi, and told the driver, follow that car. The driver, curious, asked, what's going on, son? He slowly gripped the steering wheel while I sat in the passenger seat, gritting my teeth. My girlfriend cheated on me behind my back. The women these days, huh? Don't worry, I'll help you catch up with her. The driver quickly hit the gas and followed the Mercedes closely. We circled half the city, and the Mercedes stopped in front of a hotel. Manling got out, arm in arm with a fat man, walking sensually next to him, giggling and shaking her body. The fat man, bald with a receding hairline, smilingly slapped her on the backside. They went straight to a hotel room. I recognized the fat man after a while of thinking. He was the vice president of the company Xiao Wei often mentioned. This man was married and would often take advantage of new, attractive female employees, harassing them, and if they refused, he'd find ways to make their lives difficult. Xiao Wei had also been a victim of this vice president's actions. But later, Xiao Wei had gained recognition from higher-ups with her own skills, and their vice president, fearing she might report him, restrained himself. I didn't expect that Manling's so-called solution was to sleep with this bald vice president. It's no wonder, this woman would do anything to get what she wanted. Her body was just another tool to achieve her goals. I stood by the elevator door, checking the floor, and when I confirmed it, I snuck up while the attendant wasn't paying attention. The cleaning lady was in the next room, so I took the master key card and started searching. Since it wasn't a busy season, most of the rooms were empty. After a while, I heard Manling's familiar seductive voice. This was it. I quietly opened the door with the master key. The two didn't hear me and I slipped inside. Hey, Mr. Wang, you promised me something. Xiao Wei has already given up the election. The position of department manager is definitely mine, right? I don't know what you did to make Xiao Wei agree. That woman has a tough bone. The vice president seemed to still have some interest in Xiao Wei, and Manling playfully tapped him. What? Mr. Wang, if you like her so much, why not go after her? Why do I have to do this? A few days ago, your wife came to the company and almost found out about us. If this gets out, I'll be ruined, and you'll have to take responsibility. Responsibility? Of course, I'll take responsibility. Just let me have a good time. Hearing this, I hid in the corner, took out my phone, and quietly took a few photos in silent mode. With these photos, Manling wouldn't be able to escape so easily. 2 weeks later, when the company was about to announce Xiao Wei's personnel appointment, an anonymous email was sent to the company. The email contained indecent photos of Vice President Wang and Manling. This email completely shook the company and caught the attention of the head office. Investigations showed that Vice President Wang had used various personnel appointments to sleep with many female colleagues. Manling wasn't the first, and she wouldn't be the last. The chairman was furious and fired both Vice President Wang and Manling. Xiao Wei, with her own ability, successfully became the department manager. It was you? You were the one who sent the email. One day while I was at work, Manling suddenly blocked my way at the entrance of my office. Manling no longer had her usual seductive charm and confidence. Her face was bruised, and her body was covered with scratches. She wore a hat and sunglasses, pointing and cursing at me. Since you sent those photos to the company, his wife found out. She hired a bunch of people to block my door every day, and every time they see me, they hit me. I can't even work or live normally anymore. You have to compensate me. Manling wouldn't give up, and I coldly looked at her. What does it have to do with me? You were the third party, not me. If it weren't for you, I'd already be married to Xiao Wei. I haven't even asked for an explanation from you. If you had lost control, I wouldn't have had a chance. You men are all the same. When you mess up, you blame everything on the woman. But when you benefit, you stay quiet. What did I do wrong? I just wanted to become department manager and live a better life, that's all. Why do I have to suffer like this? Manling didn't realize where she was wrong. Her eyes were filled with malice as she said, that woman can't control her man, and instead of looking for the problem with herself, she comes to make trouble for me. Par. You're all the same. I couldn't explain things to her, so I just sent her away. The company settled the matter. I heard that Manling, under pressure from Vice President Wang's wife, went back to her hometown to hide. But Wang's wife didn't let up, spreading rumors in Manling's hometown about how she had been a third party in a relationship in the big city. Manling couldn't take it and her whole family moved away. Wang's wife divorced him. With the photos I had as evidence, she took all of Wang's assets and left him with nothing. Because the incident had blown up in the industry, no one would accept Vice President Wang anymore. His life wasn't good either. But because the rent was cheap, Xiao Wei and the others had to put up with it. Xiao Wei is indeed a good girl. I've been trying to win her back, but she moved and I didn't know her new address. I waited a few times outside her company, but she avoided me. The last time we met, Xiao Wei had changed so much that I didn't recognize her. She wore delicate makeup and a necklace she bought herself. Wei Qiang, there are many things that can't go back. I know you were behind Manling's actions, and I'm thankful for what you did. I've forgotten everything that happened before. You should live well in the future, and I truly hope you'll be happy. Hearing Xiao Wei's words, I knew that we would never have a chance again. For all these years, I've been holding Xiao Wei back. If it weren't for me, she could have been shining brightly on her own. She was right. The issue with Manling ultimately stemmed from my inability to resist and reject her. How could I have the face to ask her to come back to me? I gave up my job and returned to my hometown. Following my family's arrangements, I married a woman I met through a matchmaking event and had children. Years later, I heard news about Xiao Wei. She had become the general manager of the company and was doing very well. I heard she was about to get engaged.